البشر وبناء الإنسان لم تكن عهدا مقطوعا وفقط، وإنما سلوكا وخطوات ترجمت على الأرض على مدار السنوات المنقضية. في عام 2018 كان الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي يقدم تعهدا في مستهل ولاية ثانية جديدة يقول فيها السيد الرئيس إنه إذا كانت السنوات الماضية أمضت فيها الدولة خطوات وثابة نحو بناء على
vast steps to rebuild the country on all levels, whether from the infrastructure level, investment, sustainable development. The coming years will be the real years of investing in human beings, and all these commitments were implemented on the ground via development programs, via the national projects, via steps implemented on the ground all over Egypt in different governorates and in different provinces. Sustainable development projects are scattered all over Egypt as main pillars of the coming period, main pillars of the coming agenda. Comprehensive services introduced to the Egyptian citizens all over Egypt. This was one of the strategic targets of Egypt in this period and in the coming stage. This is to introduce a new life for the Egyptians, a new standard of life to the Egyptians. This is going to be some of the fruitful results of the sustainable development agenda implemented by Egypt. What the state really wants is to change the life of the Egyptians to the better via concrete steps on the ground. All the efforts exerted are to change the life of Egyptians to the better and to give them the well-deserved lives. And these targets, these services are implemented on the ground, as we said. And this is the national project to develop the Egyptian family. This is the main title. This is a new national project. This is the project which we are going to introduce today under the auspices and under the patronage of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, to invest in the Egyptian character, to invest in the Egyptian citizen, to develop the Egyptian family in all domains. And all this is going to be implemented upon scientific basis.
وأن تجنى ثمرته في اليوم الذي نحن فيه الآن إلا عبر كل المسارات التي استطاعت الدولة
going through many directions to achieve this goal on the ground.
وأشرنا أن الدولة عندما قالت إنها تقدم كل جهدها
The state says
تريد منه إلا تغيير الواقع الحياتي والمعيشي
more than one occasion that all efforts are exerted to raise the standard of the Egyptian people, to raise the standard of the Egyptian family, to develop the Egyptian family in all domains. A national strategy to raise the standard of the Egyptian lives in general, a kind of an investment which really cares about the standard of the educational and service sectors, the services introduced by the state in those two vital sectors in specific. These were some of the commitments which were released by the President in his second term in 2018. Education and health. Education and health services should be introduced in the best way ever to the Egyptians all over the country, whether in the rural areas or in the cities, in urban communities or in villages.
إلا وفق ما تريده الدولة بالاستراتيجيات العلمية. إعلاء قيمة العلم كان ركنا أساسيا، الإحصاء، الأرقام التي كانت تستعرض وتستقى منها كل
To promote the education service was one of the first priorities. To promote the health service and health sector was also one of the first priorities of the state. All these national projects were made under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was always keen to have meetings with the top executives, the high-ranking officials, to reach these aims and to achieve these goals on the ground. Here we are watching President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi reaching this gate, reaching the new administrative capital, where he is going to launch a new national project, the national project to develop the Egyptian family. Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching live footages from the new administrative capital, where President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived to launch the new national project to develop the Egyptian family under his auspices and patronage. This is the new republic, the new Egypt, developing the Egyptian family. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi now is taking a photo with the ministers, top executives. He was received by the cabinet. We are watching now this photo of the president among the cabinet members. The national project to develop the Egyptian family, a new national project under the patronage of the head of state.
كانت تلك إذن هي لحظات وصول السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي إلى موقع احتضان هذا الإطلاق الفعلي والرسمي.
Here we are watching the launch of the national project of developing the Egyptian family, and we're watching the just few moments ago the arrival of the president.
عن وجوههم، وهو السلوك المعتاد المستمر حفاظا على الصحة العامة وكما جرت العادة أيضا. لكن في هذه الأثناء إذن يشار إلى ما بذلته الدولة على مدار السنوات الماضية من جهد في مسارات متوازية ومختلفة. نقول إننا إذا كنا إزاء مشروع قومي قائم بذاته فإنه سيكون ثمرة حقيقية وصهرا متكاملا لكل المبادرات التنموية التي عكفت الدولة على إطلاقها على مدار.
Here we are harvesting the results of the efforts exerted by the state to invest in the Egyptian character, to maintain our identity and to develop relations inside the family, to regain once again all the values of the Egyptian family. We are speaking about efforts exerted in so many directions, whether to empower women and youth or to eradicate poverty, to give more job opportunities, to eradicate unemployment. The state was not only focusing on national projects but also on SMEs, on empowering women and youth, on giving a hand to women and youth to start their micro and macro projects, to realize on the ground many achievements regarding the economic development in all domains and all over Egypt, in all provinces, to focus on the Egyptian citizen all over Egypt and not to focus on certain urban communities or certain cities, but to reach every Egyptian in all the corners, in all the villages, in the far areas, on the borders. The Egyptian citizen now is enjoying his rights in all domains, and he is receiving such a distinguished service, whether in education, in health, via many national projects and via also the initiatives which were launched by the presidency to raise the standard of his life and to introduce the best service in all domains. Women, the Egyptian women now are really enjoying their rights, enjoying empowerment, and enjoying the full support of the cabinet, of the state, of the president, to start their businesses, to focus on their very small projects, micro and macro ones. Full support is introduced to the Egyptian women and youth in all domains, whether financially, whether logistically. All those who really want to start a project or their business, they are going to find the full support from the state. This is the way to achieve real sustainable development. There's all the time talks, and there are all the time efforts exerted to achieve these targets on the ground, not only ink on paper, but tangible efforts, tangible steps. there's no way to speak about the rural areas in Egypt or to speak about the villages all over the country without speaking about Decent Life Initiative or Haya Karima. Decent Life Initiative aims to promote the standard of living and to elevate the sufferings, to elevate the burdens of more than 60 million Egyptians all over Egypt. Reaching this stage was not an easy job. It was hard work in the past few years. It's not a dream anymore. It's a process going on the ground, where Egyptians feel that they do have rights and they are going to have these all rights. They do have their duties, of course, but their rights are going to be taken and they are going to enjoy the efforts exerted by them and by the state. There is all the time full coordination and consultations among different governmental entities to achieve these goals on the ground, and there are all the time meetings presided over by the President or by the Prime Minister to guarantee that all the efforts which are exerted and implemented reach the low brackets people, low bracket citizens, because those really deserve to live in a better way, in a better standard. Egypt is a state of institutions, and there is all the time full coordination among all these institutions to implement the goals of sustainable development, Egypt 2030 and Egypt 2063. Now, Decent Life Initiative is a role model for many countries. Decent Life Initiative is such a big, huge national project which aims to promote the life standard of more than 60 million Egyptians in rural areas. No more centralization, no more focusing only on urban cities, no more speaking about rural areas as far from the modernization of the country. Egypt now is a modern state. Egypt now is a modern state where its people, where its citizens are going all to enjoy equality and enjoy distinguished services in all domains, particularly in the pillars or in the main services like education and health. These are some of the goals of Sustainable Development Agenda, whether Egypt 2030 or Egypt 2063. Here also we are speaking about implementing these goals or achieving these goals via scientific basis. After thorough studies, taking into ground that technology, that science should be the basis on which we build our new republic. And despite the fact that the whole world was suffering from COVID-19 and its repercussions on the global economy, the Egyptian economy proved to be that resilient in front of the pandemic. We achieved the gross domestic product as was expected, and maybe more than that. And it's not a surprise to find that there are economic entities, big global economic entities, praising the Egyptian economy and praising its resilience in front of the pandemic. Not only in the Middle East region, but in Africa, and maybe in the whole world.
تحقيق نقلة نوعية في حياة البشر على مستوى محافظات الجمهورية المختلفة وباختلاف شرائحهم ومكوناتهم. لا يمكن النظر بعين جادة، عين معتبرة لما يمكن أن يحدث إلا إذا كنا نتحدث عن انعكاس مباشر لمعدلات النمو المتحققة أو المستهدفة أو التي ينتظر أن تتحقق على مدار السنوات الماضية، إلا إذا كان هناك تناسب علمي مباشر بين ما نحققه من معدلات نمو وما ننجزه أيضا على مستوى هذه القضية، قضية ضبط النمو السكاني. كنا بدأنا الحديث أيضا بما بات يعرف في علم الديموغرافيا وفي علم السكان بالارتقاء بجودة الخصائص السكانية، فإننا أيضا وبالضرورة سنتحدث عن هذا المعدل، عن معدل النمو السكاني المتزايد. 2.5 مليون طفل يولدون في السنة الواحدة يستتبع بالضرورة بحجم احتياج كبير لعدد الفصول الدراسية التي يمكن أن تلبي احتياجات هذا العدد الضخم في سنة واحدة، عن حجم فرص العمل التي تريدها هذه الفئات الشابة التي
Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching live footages from the new administrative capital, where just a few minutes ago President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived to launch the new national project of developing the Egyptian family.
ولا يمكن بأي حال من الأحوال أن نشهد انعكاسا حقيقيا لهذه الآثار المباشرة لمعدلات النمو المتحققة إلا إذا كان هناك نسبة متقاربة أو مستجيبة لمعدلات النمو المحققة. الارتقاء بجودة الخصائص السكانية هذه تأتي عبر المسارات المحددة المباشرة. المسارين الأساسيين هما الصحة والتعليم، يضاف إليهما بالطبع الارتقاء بجودة الحياة وجودة الخدمات المقدمة للمواطنين من بنى تحتية ومن رعاية على مستوى خدمات الصرف الصحي، خدمات الغاز الطبيعي. الارتقاء بجودة الحياة من حيث أنها هدف أسمى تقدمه الدولة عبر كل الجهود التنموية وعبر كل المسارات التي تنشط فيها، سواء كانت عبر جهود وطنية مباشرة أو عبر شراكات تنموية مع مؤسسات مختلفة. في هذه النقطة تحديدا في العاصمة الإدارية الجديدة في سبتمبر من العام المنقضي عام 2021 كان البرنامج الإنمائي للأمم المتحدة هنا يعتمد تقرير التنمية البشرية مصر 2021 والذي أعد بالشراكة مع الحكومة المصرية، وكانت المحاور متعددة ومتتالية التي تطرق إليها هذا التقرير. تقرير التنمية المستدامة مصر 2021 كان يتحدث عن محاور مرتبطة بالصحة، محاور مرتبطة بالتعليم، محاور مرتبطة بخدمات جودة الحياة، محور مرتبطة.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching live footages from the new administrative capital, where President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived a few minutes ago to launch the new national project of developing the Egyptian family. This is the fruitful results of efforts exerted by the state to promote the standard of living of the Egyptians, efforts exerted to integrate the people with determination into the society. There are many goals and many targets of this project: to empower women and children more, to make women and children benefit from many presidential initiatives to raise their standard or to empower them in many domains, to achieve on the ground the goals of Decent Life initiative for nearly 60 million Egyptians all over the country. The past few years witnessed a lot to improve the lives of the Egyptian family, to empower women and youth, to realize the best results of GDP and best results of economic development. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is all the time keen to launch himself these national projects and to launch many presidential initiatives just for the sake to improve the lives of all Egyptians all over Egypt. And he focused more than once on two main sectors: health and education, taking into consideration that whenever health and education are witnessing development, then the whole country is going to witness development. And the word sustainability is a key word here. We are not speaking about this year, about the coming year, but we are speaking about generations to come to enjoy the best life we can afford. Egypt now is speaking about Egypt 2030, Egypt 2063.
تغيير الفلسفة التي يتعامل معها المصريون، وبالتالي كان جزء من الشراكة التي يقوم عليها المشروع القومي لتنمية الأسرة المصرية جزء مرتبط بالجانب الثقافي والتوعوي والتعليمي، وبالتالي فالحضور سيكون بارزا وحاضرا وأساسيا ضمن مراحل العمل بمستوياته المختلفة في هذا المشروع من رجال.
The national project of developing the Egyptian family is a huge one which is going to cover a lot of dimensions: social, cultural, health, education, awareness. To invest in the Egyptian character is one of the most important priorities of the president, and he said it in many occasions, because without investing in the Egyptian character, nothing can be achieved on the ground. And this is to start from childhood. This is to start from the early childhood, to be accurate. And also, the President was keen in many occasions to speak about the overpopulation and how it would absorb all the development process we are doing. So taking this into consideration is very important. This is one of the dimensions of the developing the family national project, to take into consideration that overpopulation is one of the main obstacles on the way of development. And also in many occasions, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was keen to say that the Egyptian citizen, that the Egyptian is the real hero behind any achievement. And all the time, the head of state, whether in national or international arenas, the head of state was all the time keen to extend his thanks to the Egyptian citizen as the real hero behind any success implemented on the ground or achieved on the ground.
النظر إلى الأسرة المصرية وما يتعين علينا أن نحافظ عليه من مكتسبات قيمية وأخلاقية ودينية ومجتمعية عهدها المصريون منذ أجيالهم السابقة وحتى هذه اللحظة تتعامل معها مؤسسات الدولة باعتبارها هدف.
The Egyptians were really enjoying values, enjoying such strong bonds among the members of the same family, and it's time once again to revive all these values and to cement these values, to put these values in front of the coming generations as the way to lead a happy life, or to create a comprehensive environment for a healthy life. This is modern Egypt. To care about the person, the character, the citizen, women, children, youth, people with special needs, people with determination, integrating them into the society, accepting the other. This is the new republic, this is the new Egypt. A strategy adopted by the state, not in theory, but in practice. Not haphazardly, but based on scientific basis and scientific research.
الهدف الذي تتعامل معه الدولة كما أشرنا يقوم على مجموعة من الأهداف المترابطة التي قامت بالأساس على خطوات اتخذتها وأقدمت عليها الدولة على مدار السنوات الماضية. إذا كانت التنمية تقوم بشكل مباشر على استهداف معايش الناس، على استهداف حياتهم، على استهداف تغيير واقعهم المعيشي، فإنها لا يمكن أن تأتي كقرار واحد، وإنما عبر جملة من المسارات التي تتخذها الدولة. المشروعات التي قامت بها الدولة في المسار البنائي، في المسار الإنشائي، في مسار تغيير الواقع الحضاري لمصر، الحفاظ على القيمة التاريخية الكبيرة لمصر، والبناء بأنماط جديدة ومختلفة كالوجهة التي نحن فيها الآن العاصمة الإدارية الجديدة، هي التي تسير معها وجنبا إلى جنب أهداف أخرى للتنمية. الدولة تريد خفضا مباشرا في معدلات البطالة وتوفير فرص العمل، وقد تحقق هذا الهدف. ومن بين هذه الأهداف عبر تقليل معدلات البطالة وخلق فرص العمل يتحقق جانب كبير من الاستقرار المعيشي والحياتي الذي تريده الأسر. تزويد الناس بما يحتاجونه من سبل العيش الكريم واللائق هو هدف من بين الأهداف الأساسية التي كانت الدولة تحرص عليها، وهي تقدم استثمارات كانت أقرب لأن تكون استثمارات تريليونية. نحن تعرضنا مثلا للرقم الذي أنفقته الدولة على مدار السنوات الأربع أو الخمس الماضية في صعيد مصر فقط، أنفقت ما يربو على تريليون ونصف التريليون جنيه في قطاع واحد فقط في الجمهورية، قطاع الصعيد بمحافظاته المختلفة. ضمن المشروعات التي أنفقت فيها الدولة هذا الإنفاق، هذا يعني أن فرص عمل كبيرة وفرت، هذا يعني أن هناك حجما كبيرا من الدعم قدم لهذه الأسر بأشكال مختلفة، لكنه في هذه المرة سيقدم بمسار منضبط، يقدم تحت مظلة المشروع القومي لتنمية الأسرة المصرية.
The strategic goals of the strategic goals of the national project of developing the Egyptian family involves economic empowerment of women, creating job opportunities for them, 1 million women will be trained on entrepreneurship, and 1 million micro businesses run by women will be funded and facilitated. Moreover, a governmental fund will be founded to grant incentives to families abiding by family planning guidelines. Family planning methods will also be distributed among 400 NGOs that will be trained on safe storage of such products. 6 million women will be the target of an awareness campaign that will be implemented through 12 million home visits. Legislations will be articulated to criminalize the marriage of minors. Those were some of the features of the national project of developing the Egyptian family. Many meetings took place to discuss the goals and targets of this national project, whether presided by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi or by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, in which both urged the top executive to submit a plan based on scientific research and scientific methods to be implemented on the ground to guarantee that the national project of developing the Egyptian family is going to be a story of success to be added to the stories of success we have. Stories of success embodied on the ground via presidential initiatives, whether the health initiatives or decent life initiative or many others, with one sole goal: to raise the standard of living of the Egyptian.
السلام عليكم. تفضل.
المشروع القومي لتنمية الأسرة المصرية تحت رعاية السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية.
فخامة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس
President عبد الفتاح السيسي.
سيادتك يا فندم، الحضور الكريم، أرحب بحضراتكم جميعا، ويسعدنا اليوم أن نشهد معا.
We are happy to witness launching the national project of developing the Egyptian family, a new step to build the Egyptian citizen, and a new feature of the new republic. The Egyptian state had put into consideration how to solve the crisis of overpopulation and how to realize better standards of living for the Egyptian family. And this project aims at achieving a number of targets on the ground, raising the awareness of the overpopulation problem. Then this is the launch of this national project which needs to follow up. What is going to start today is not going to stop, and we're going to follow it up and to evaluate this to reach its goal to promote and to raise the standard of living of the Egyptian family is the main target of this national project. Many governmental and non-governmental institutions are going to participate in this session to serve this project and to make it a comprehensive one to promote the standards and the circumstances of the Egyptian family from different institutions. The speakers are going to include Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Planning Dr. Hala Saeed, Dr. Khalid Abdel-Ghaffar, Minister of Higher Education and Acting Minister of Health, Dr. Niveen Qavaj, Minister of Social Solidarity, Dr. Maya Morsi, the head of the National Council of Women, Dr. Shawqa Alam, the Mufti of the Republic, Father Julius, Dr. Magid Othman, the head of the Egyptian Council, Dr. Noha Talat, member of the Society of Family Planning, Mrs. Justina Tharwat, Decent Life Initiative member. You're most welcome to all. We ask God Almighty to help us to serve the Egyptian citizen and to realize the targets and goals of this national project to raise the standard or to promote the standard of living of the Egyptian family. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, of course, had the right to comment on any of the statements which were said by the keynote speakers, and we wish that everyone is going to stick to the time of speaking. Now we are going to start with the session, and we start with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli to address the gathering. In the name of God most merciful, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Ladies and gentlemen, first, let me welcome all of you witnessing the launch of the national project of developing the Egyptian family. This is part of the state's efforts upon the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to move forward to the new republic. In the past 7 years, we were working in this field, achieving many huge national projects on the ground all over Egypt. The volume of development achieved by the Egyptian state during the past 7 years, of course, it's unprecedented in our history, and it's one of 1,000 steps, as the President is always saying, to develop our homeland. And here, as a state and as a government, when we put the strategy of Egypt 2030 and the government plan under this slogan, one of the most important components was this project, developing the Egyptian family. It's not only family planning or the overpopulation, but it's to promote the quality of living and to invest into the Egyptian character. The Egyptian state built many huge national projects costing 6.2 trillion Egyptian pounds in hundreds of national projects all over Egypt, whether in urban or in rural cities, to compensate the very hard circumstances which were witnessed by Egypt in the past decades. We were late because of all these circumstances, but now what's implemented on the ground, the whole world is saying so. The whole world is witnessing what's going on the ground. What we are doing is a real miracle. And on the other hand, do we see that This is enough for the Egyptian state, and in attempt to compensate or to fill this gap, what are the other requirements and what are the future requirements due to the overpopulation? This is very complicated, and if these are challenges which is very hard to cope with, and because of this, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi launched, in my humble opinion, the biggest project in the whole world, which targets 60 million Egyptians in the rural areas. It's a unique project to realize on the ground a distinguished standard of living for 60 million Egyptians in 3 years, and to compensate or to change the image of life of all of them. Now, but what after? Despite all these efforts exerted, there are a lot of challenges in front of us. Honestly, the overpopulation and the continuous increase into the population, which really requires a lot of needs. Here we're talking about many sectors: health, education, services. We stop in front of this to face it, particularly when we do put our budget every year. Mr. President, of course, you all know that we are now doing the budget of the coming fiscal year, and I do discuss with my fellow ministers the requirements of the coming period of the coming year, and here I'm going to just give some simple examples. We are faced with such numbers, huge numbers. Even the developed countries cannot face such numbers, and here I'm going to give only one number. In 2021, the natural increase, 1.5 million people. The difference between the death rate and the birth rate, 1.5 million people. I'm going just to give one example. If any school or any class, just to have the appropriate number of students, from 30 to 40 students. But by this, I do need, as a state, to add 40,000 classes to absorb this increase in population. 40,000 classes costing $500,000 Egyptian pounds, and here I'm just talking about one class in one school, so in 20 classes, so 10 million with all its services. So 40,000 classes, so 20 billion Egyptian pounds every single year to add just to build schools, in addition to the teachers, maintenance. Okay, what about the previous accumulations? 30,000 classes from previous decades, and we are trying to work or to give the utmost efforts to fill this gap. But if we can do this with all the facilities we have and with all the support of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to implement all these projects on the ground, but what about the new generations? What about the newcomers? How we can add all these huge numbers? Of course, what I'm saying is implemented on the health sector, on the hospitals. There are other requirements into this field, and it's not only here about buildings, but infrastructure and the human cadres too, to give this service on the ground to the citizens. There's such a challenge in all domains and by all measures, and when we discuss such measures with other governments, but what after? What's going to happen in 10 or 15 years? Despite all the huge national projects implemented on the ground, but there is the human development and the increase in overpopulation. What you will do to face this? And the main point is, and which I really like to speak about, is the food security and water. In 1950, there were only 20 million Egyptians, but now, in March, according to the latest statistics, 1.3 million, meaning 5 times over. But still, the amount of water is the same. When we were only 55 millions, we reached scarcity or water poverty. 55 billion cubic meters from the Nile River to reach 60 or 62 billion cubic meters. 1,000 cubic meters per person is the definition of water scarcity or water poverty. Now we are 1.3 million Egyptians, meaning that just 550 meters of cubic meters, meaning that it's half of the water poverty or water scarcity. Even with all this subsidies, with all this support by the Egyptian states, and to benefit from every drop of water, there are directives of the president to be implemented on the ground regarding the national projects of treating drainage and agricultural wastewater, and to benefit from each drop of water. Also to cleanse the waterways, to reach the maximum benefit from our water resources, and to cover the needs or requirements of the population. But let's imagine together, what about if this rate of increase continued the same way, with the very same amount of water? And this means that we are not going to resort except to the desalination, and this is a very complicated solution. And it's not going to be that easy to use this water to use in agriculture. This is a very huge challenge in front of us. We should stop here. The image of our country. We are fighting against time. What about the future? What about the coming 20 years? How it's going to be? We're going to reach 150 million Egyptians in 20 years. How we can imagine that this is going to be the case? How the Egyptian state is going to manage this process, is going to manage this state? And I'd like just to say it clearly to all Egyptians. We look at this issue as a cultural or a religious aspect, from a religious or a cultural aspect. All the countries are measured by not only the numbers of population, but the quality of the human being. The quality of the human being is more important than the number, of course. Reaching the highest level of education, of culture, and really receiving the best quality of service, or the country is not able to supply or to afford him with the distinguished service. But by all means, I'm sorry to say that it's numbers, it's statistics, natural resources in front of the increase in population. And this was assured by the Egyptian constitution in the article number 41, to put a developmental program to realize the maximum benefits from our natural resources. Now the case which we launch in front of all people, that it's time for Egypt to target the overpopulation case or the overpopulation crisis, and to look at this case as a national security or a life or death matter. Every big increase into population, which we will never be able to face as a state with all our natural resources, it's a negative and pressuring issue. We should just look at this We should not say it's if it is only me or it's only my children. No, we should take into consideration that the coming period is very critical, and we really studied the experiences of other countries regarding this issue, and all these countries had put its programs with many positive incentives. Through this program, we made a clear vision to try to reach all citizens with all the basic services, to support or to help them in family planning, to give them some positive incentives to the Egyptian family, to encourage them to reach this aim, to reach a family of only 2 children. And of course, my colleagues, the other ministers, are going to explain this according to their specialties. This is what we really want to reach. The goal is to reach the maximum developmental goals to be realized on the ground in the coming 10 or 15 years. This is the real challenge in front of us. And we are all thinking about it and about achieving this on the ground. With all this big volume of investment and all the projects, and this is to cope with the challenges. But if we can achieve this now, but what about the coming 10 or 15 years? We should stop to answer this question in the light of this big increase in the population. I'd like to end my speech that it's time for us, it's time for all Egyptians. And here I'm not separating between the cabinet or the people, but we all together should move forward to achieve this goal. How to achieve family planning, how to achieve a decrease in the overpopulation, at least in the coming 10 to 15 years, to be able to compensate or to be able to fill the gap or to face these accumulations in the past decades, to realize a good standard or a quality of living, and to benefit from all those projects implemented by the state and all the directives of the political leadership. Here I will stop and thank you very much. This was the speech of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli. This national project is carrying this name, the Egyptian family. So, and here we should just know from the Egyptian families, regardless their place in different governorates, regarding their age, and to ask them about their circumstances. I do have.
خمس عيال.
معايا 6.
عندي 5.
عندي ولد وبنت.
معايا 6. معايا 4 أولاد.
3 أولاد.
معايا 6 عيال.
ومعايا 6 أولاد.
في بيبي لسه نيو بورن، أنا في الشهر الخامس.
أمر ربنا، لا إله إلا الله.
إرادة ربنا بقى، هنعمل إيه؟ نصيبهم يجوا على الدنيا، هنعمل إيه؟
والله كان عصرنا كده في المدة دي، فين الدنيا وفي الناس يا ابني؟
كنت متفق على 2 بس ربنا أراد بالثالث.
هو إحنا كنا متفقين على 3، بس أنا حسيت إن أنا مش قادرة على المجهود ومحتاجة مساحة بتاعتي ومساحة ليهم، فكان كده بالنسبة لي كفاية لمقدرتي.
عشان أعرف أربيه كويس، أعرف أعلمه كويس، أعرف أعيشه في المستوى اللي أنا كان نفسي إن هو يفضل عايش فيه طول حياته.
فعلا كنت نفسي في ولد، ونقول كل ما تيجي بنت يمكن ربنا يرزق بولد.
خلفت يعني لغايه ما جبت الولد.
لغايه ما جبت الولد.
البيت عندي مطرح واحد.
دي اوضه وصاله، هنسموا بالظبط. في سرير للبنات وفي سرير للولد.
بنت بتنام مع 6 والصبيان بيناموا بره في اوضه برانيه.
بيناموا في الارض واللي بينام على السرير واللي بينام تحت السرير.
اتعلمنا كويس، دخلنا كليات كويسه. اعتقد لو كان عندي كذا اخ وكذا اخت كان الموضوع هيبقى اصعب من كده.
لو كان 2 كنت قدرت اللي انا نعلمهم، لكن انا ما عنديش حد متعلم.
لا فيهم واحد متعلم، اصل احنا بنخلف العيل عشان يطلع يسندنا.
ابني بشغله نقاش، كان يطلع من المدرسه وبيشتغل عشان يساعد معايا.
اسيبه يشتغل جنب تعليمه عشان يساعد معايا.
والدي انا مخلف 6، كنت بشتغل من رابعه ابتدائي، بصرف على نفسي لحد ما وصلت الدبلوم.
خرجت من التعليم. لا هو بيشتغل معايا عشان بيساعدني.
انا مساعدها عشان يساعدوني، ما رضيش والله يتعلم.
لا ما اكدبش عليك ان انا مقصر معاهم.
يا عيني
تربيتنا العيال تعبتنا خالص.
مجهود كبير، شقه وتعب.
ما هم الخمسه بياكلوا في رقبتي.
يعني مثلا الولد عايز مثلا 4 كشاكيل اجيب له 2، عايز لبس زي الزمولات، عايز كوتش او لبس العاب زي زملاته ما اجيبلوش.
هفسح مين ولا حد معاه حاجه للفسحه؟ اركب العربيه بنام من التعب والشقه اللي احنا فيه.
طفل واحد هيكون فيه طاقة أكتر ليه واهتمام بيه ماديا ونفسيا.
لما احنا بنزيد الجودة بتقل.
كل حاجة متخصصة لكل حد هتبدأ تبقى بتتوزع على ناس كتير قوي، يعني مفيش حد هياخد الفير بارت بتاعه.
متجوز بقى له 11 شهر ومعايا بنت واحدة بس، خلفة كمان وخلاص.
معايا 3.
كنا معايا 3. قلنا 3 عشان إن شاء الله تبقى يعني معيشة ويتربوا كويس ويتعلموا كويس، لأن احنا كان عندنا تجربة، والدي كان 9، فطبعا كانت الحياة صعبة شوية. فاحنا بقى خفنا نخوض التجربه دي والحمد لله.
عندي الحمد لله بنتين على الاقل خالص، واخدين حقوقهم في التعليم، في التربيه، في المحبه، في الحب، في الحنان.
ما ينفعش انا ابقى عارف ان انا بيدخل لي 20 جنيه ولا 60 جنيه كل شهر بخلف 5 6 عيال.
لو على ايامنا كان في تنظيم الاسره والكلام ده كله كان هيبقوا 1 أو 2 بس كفايه كده.
لا هو 2 كده حلو قوي، يعني ياخدوا حقهم في كل حاجة، يعني في الاهتمام وفي الرعاية وفي كل حاجة.
لو رجع بيا الزمن والله يا ابني هم 2 برضه، لان هيعيشوا. لو واحد يبقى باشا ابن باشا، تاكلوا بمعلقه دهب. المفروض عيل او عيلين بالكثير خالص.
فكره الخلفه كتير هتاثر على صحه، على تعليم، على الحاجات السكاني في كل حته يعني.
لو كانوا 2 لو كانوا 3 كنت هنعلمهم.
لو كانوا 2 كان يبقى المكان حلو.
لا لو رجع بيا الزمن واعرف ان الايام هتبقى كده اجيب 1 بس مش 2 كمان.
مشكله الاطفال دي والخلفه الكتيره دي انا مش معاها. الحياه عايزه ان انت يعني بتحسبها صح
خالص. انا بقول لك من عاطي ما كنتش عايز 5 ولا كنت عايز 2، كنت عايش في البيت كده بتعرف تبقى مبسوط.
لو رجع الزمن ما كنتش هجيب غير فعلا 2، يعني كنت اعلمهم كويس جدا. لازم يبقى يعني المستوى اعلى من كده كتير قوي. انا خلفت 4 واتبهدلت وعلمتهم، فانا عشان كده وعيت عيالي يخلفوا 2.
انا ابني لسه متجوز بقاله سنه، بقول له يا ابني كفايه عيل بس، كفايه 1.
عيل ابرك من 5 عيال في الزمن ده.
عيلين على قد مرتبه وعلى قد فلوس اللي هم جايين بيقولوا الحمد لله رب العالمين.
مسؤولية طفل ان انت تطلع طفل سوي وناجح، دي مسؤولية كبيرة قوي.
انه يحسبها صح، يعني خلف 1 أو 2 بس.
انا بنصح اي حد يقبل على الجواز والخلفة ان هو الاول يحسب امكانياته كويس، وبعد كده يقرر يشوف هو هيخلف 1 ولا 2.
نقول للناس الجيران كفايه عليك ولد وبنت.
محدش قال لك ما تخلفش، بس ربنا عرفوه بالعقل. كلنا نفسنا عيالنا تكون أحسن مننا. المشروع القومي لتنمية الأسرة المصرية تحت رعاية السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية.
وزارة التخطيط والتنمية الاقتصادية شريك رئيسي وقائم على هذا المشروع القومي.
partner in this national project, and here we are going to listen to Dr. Hala Said, Minister of Planning. In the name of God, most merciful, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, ladies and gentlemen, permit me first to explain the national project of developing the Egyptian family. This is a collective effort exerted by the Egyptian cabinet, by the Egyptian government. The project of developing the Egyptian family When the Egyptian state launched the vision of 2030, also the presidential directives, economic development plans, the program of the government, it's all focusing on building the Egyptian citizen and to promote the standard of the Egyptian family. There are many efforts exerted in the past 7 years regarding national projects costing $400 million or 6 trillion Egyptian pounds. Decent Life Initiative, which also targets more, which also costs $50 billion, the biggest developmental project worldwide. All these projects, its own goal is to promote the lives of the standard of living of the Egyptian citizen. And of course, there are many positive impacts on the ground, decreasing the death of the children under 5, also dwindling the numbers of education infiltration from the preparatory schools to the higher education standards, improving all these indications, in addition to other challenges we are still facing, like the number of students into the classes. All this we cannot sustain all these indications, far from the overpopulation policy. We are trying to reach 6%, but to have the sustainable rates is not going to be implemented on the ground except with having control on the population. If we can look at the current situation regarding the population from 1982 to 1991, in those 10 years, Egypt increased 17.7 million, 1.8. There are some efforts were exerted to decrease these rates to 1.7 million per year, and the other years from 2002 to 2012, 2.2 per year, and the last 10 years we are increased 25 million, meaning 2.5 million per year. 2.5 million per year. There are countries whose population is 2.5 million. There are 12 countries whose population are 2.5 million, meaning that our increase equal one of those states. It's very important to say, when we decide how to have an overpopulation policy, to look to the population pyramid, the demographic pyramid. According to the latest statistics, in 2017, there is difference between the pyramid in 2017 and in 2016. 2006. In 2006, the youth bulge. It was the prevailing, but in the last statistics, it's the babies, or from 0 to 9. This was the prevailing category, meaning in 2032 to 2040, this is the marriage category. So if we do not interfere now, we are going to find another big increase or a leap. And now, when we look at this increase, we should not just look at the rate of birth, but also the rate of having babies. And this is the way on which we should put our policies. in different governorates. There are some governorates in which giving birth exceeding five babies or 5 children per lady, meaning 8, 9, 10, and others 2 or 10. But these are very huge numbers in different governorates. Among other indications, also according to the age of the mother, minor wives from 15 to 19. This is also another indicator. Also from the age of from 20 to 29. All these information or data are very important when we do the legislations to fight or to face overpopulation. The average is three children per family or per lady, and what we really want to reach is 1.7. This is going to have its positive impact on overpopulation rates and to afford those families with the resources. The difference here equals 50 million Egyptians if we can keep or maintain this rate 1.6. In fact, this is a very important indicator. One of the most important indicators is the difference between the indicator is how to reach human development. The average of having only 1 or 2 babies, the human capital is better. The human capital, of course, is the most valuable wealth we do have, meaning that we are talking about healthy people, productivity, received received education in the best way ever. So overpopulation means a decreased portion of services, and this is implemented on the family. Whenever there is a bigger family, so the resources of the family is not going to be that sufficient for the children. In the strategy of human rights implemented by Egypt, we took into consideration all these aspects. Human rights, the economic and social rights are of the most important human rights from its comprehensive or panoramic view. Women's rights, which guarantee her health, to take into consideration the gap which should be found between giving birth for a baby and the other, and to guarantee that every child is going to receive the best service regarding education, health, and to well invest in human beings. We do have many experiences, successful experiences implemented by many countries. We achieved some success, but till the moment we have not reached the target. We were not enjoying sustainability in this issue. Now we reached 3 children. We reached a lower number before, but now unfortunately we are back to 3. What we should do is to work for sustainable development. It's also important to know, when we started the population policies, the first institutional frame included the higher education of family planning, and this was in 1965. This was the very first time the Egyptian state looked to the overpopulation issue, and this council It was presided over by the president, and it was talking about the family planning methods. After that, there was the population policies in the 70s, and it was based on many different programs in cooperation with NGOs. But in 1985, the very first Council of Population was introduced in 1986. But what are our targets of developing the family? The main target is to control the increasing overpopulation rates. As we said, we reach 2.5 million new babies yearly, but also to raise the characteristics of the population. Those two elements are the main pillars of promoting the standards of the Egyptian citizen. The first axis, empowering women economically, is one of the main pillars of the main axis in this case. The second axis is introducing the family planning health service. Also, the cultural and awareness axis. The fourth is the digital transformation. All these axes need legislation. Without legislative environment, it's not going to work on the ground. Also, the fifth pillar or the fifth axis, according to the presidential directives, it's the positive and financial positive intensives. Here we are analyzing some of the statistics or some of the numbers. We target women from 18 to 45 years old. We also target the school children, university students, also the rural communities, and other government rates. Also the geographic aspect all over Egypt. We launch the first stage or the first phase of this project. It's going to be implemented according to Decent Life Initiative in 52 centers in the rural and urban centers, and we are going to move from a phase to the other according to developing the infrastructure in different provinces in the frame of Decent Life Initiative. When we speak about the economic empowerment for women from 18 to 45 years old, in all international experiences, this is one of the main pillars to guarantee the financial independence for women, to let them integrate it into the economic activities. As you know, we are still not enjoying a big share of the Egyptian women into businesses, so this is a very decisive axis. We target more than 2 million Egyptian women how to manage businesses, also to provide them with small businesses or small projects in cooperation with different governmental entities, and these are going to be implemented also all over Egypt. Regarding the services, according to the latest surveys, it was proved that the methods of family planning were not afforded or provided in the way we target or we want to put on the ground. We aim to train NGOs, and we want to train doctors, and we want to get many NGOs involved to implement this on the ground, to have mobile centers to reach the citizens, to reach the women, and also to afford them with food for the low brackets. low-income brackets, and this is going to be with full coordination between the Ministries of Health and Social Solidarity. Also, the awareness and cultural aspect. TV series should be produced, and also field visits, workshops for the children in all governorates. Also, the religious thinkers and the religious scholars, they do have a big role in helping us to guarantee that this project is going to be a story of success and to be implemented in the best way on the ground. Another, digital transformation is also one of the main pillars or the main axis of this national project. A database to be created to have all these initiatives put together in one database and to be followed up easily. Also to be evaluated on the ground, to evaluate its direct impact on the characteristics of the population. The other aspect, which is a document, a financial incentive to guarantee the stability, the financial stability of the Egyptian woman or the Egyptian family. And of course, there are some rules and regulations to guarantee that this is going to reach the well-deserved. No more than 2 children. 21 years is the minimum age for a woman to be included into this initiative. Also, we should take care of her health. This is a condition just to give regular visits to the health centers, to have some regular tests to make sure that she is enjoying good health. Many incentives are going to be guaranteed and given to those included into this initiative. What are the most important characteristics? Unprecedentedly, the political leadership is giving the utmost support to this project, giving the directives to develop and to modernize this project. For the very first time, we are facing this overpopulation. It's not only from the health perspective, but it's a comprehensive perspective. It's included into the development issue, development case. Also, it's the very first time to speak about empowering women economically into this aspect. This is to increase and to boost the GDP. We are talking about financial inclusion and about MESA cards, about a comprehensive system to empower women economically. We also talk about positive financial incentives. The very first time they are going to be implemented on the ground to guarantee the stability of the Egyptian family. God forbid if the mother dies, the family members are going to receive financial incentives. For the very first time, also, we do have a comprehensive project. We do have financial incentives. We have the affording a job opportunity as also an incentive. We afford the food basket for the first 1,000 days in the life of the newcomer or the new baby. We guarantee that every child is going to receive the best service, whether from the educational sector or from the health sector. Many concerned bodies are participating in this national project. full coordination and consultation between concerned bodies, whether from the public sector or from the private sector, should be achieved on the ground to guarantee the success of this national project, to reach a family with suitable members, to guarantee a good, distinguished life for the coming generations. If this is not the appropriate life for the Egyptians, tomorrow is going to be a better day for them. Many thanks to Dr. Hala Said, Minister of Planning and Economic Development.
واحد واتنين تهتموا بمن فينا احنا كترنا انا واخواتي الباقيين نايمين على نفس سريرنا انا عمري ما كان موجود لي مكان في البيت ولا وسط العيله وبدل ما اشيل لعبي وكراستي شايله انا شيله تقيله ده اسمي خلاص بيعت الورد محدش عارف اسمي من كتر اللف مكسر جسمي شوية ما لقيتش مكان ولا حد سمعني كأني قاعد وحدية ووحشني حضنكوا زي زمان يا ريته كان بإيديا لو بس تلاقوا حبة وقت يكفي ويكون ليا جينا الدنيا جينا واحلامنا في لينا فستان وعروسة في ايد ناس تانية كان نفسي العب بيها والبسها واغني ليها اغنية كده فجأة لقيتني انا قاعدة مكانها ومتلخبطة من الدنيا للعبة الحلوة بقت مش لعبة وانت بقيت انا هي جينا الدنيا جينا واحلامنا في لينا انا كنت بفتح عيني وبنزل مدرستي الصبحية دلوقتي بقيت أنا بنزل هنا تحت العربية سايب ألواني وكتبي ورسمي وحياتي الطبيعية والعدة تقيلة عليا بتعور لي إيديا جينا الدنيا جينا واحلامنا في لينا
جم الدنيا وجواهم أحلام كتير بس أكيد طول ما عددهم كتير مشاكلهم هتكون أكتر وجودة الحياة اللي بنوفرها لهم أكيد أقل إيدينا في إيدين بعض نحقق لهم جودة حياة أحسن لأن ولادنا يستحقوا حياة حلوة. المشروع القومي لتنمية الأسرة المصرية تحت رعاية السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية.
طيب نبدأ الآن الجلسة النقاشية وبعد ما تم عرضه من دكتور هالة السعيد بخصوص ما يتعلق بالمشروع من أهداف من محاور وخطط أيضا وكافة الشركاء في هذا المشروع أنتقل هنا بسؤالي لدكتور خالد عبد الغفار وزير التعليم العالي والقائم بأعمال وزير الصحة. دكتور خالد ما هو دور وزارة الصحة في هذا المشروع القومي لتنمية الأسرة المصرية
the role of the health ministry in this project. Of course, the Minister of Health, we do participate in all the aspects of the national project, whether it's the awareness and the culture, the health transformation. But before before answering this question, let's have a quick look at the presidential initiatives which were launched starting 2017, are they related to each other? Are they related to develop the Egyptian family, to upgrade the standard of life of the Egyptian? Let's think together that all the initiatives which took place in the past period, they were really connected to what we are launching or what we are witnessing today, which is developing the Egyptian family, the quality of living from the health perspective. Of course, it's very important for the father, the mother, the elders, the children. All the procedures which were taken, like the pre-marriage tests, like the health of the women and children, 100 health initiatives, all the presidential initiatives which took place and costing millions or billions of Egyptian pounds, we achieved a lot to upgrade the standard of living of the Egyptian citizen. All of this is included under this umbrella, developing the Egyptian family. And here I should mention one of the biggest health projects, the biggest survey made by any country worldwide, when we tested 62 million Egyptians. And we made million surgeries, very complicated ones. We're speaking about heart surgeries, neuro, ophthalmology, renal, hepatic. This is a very huge project to put an end to any suffering, any sufferings of the Egyptians. If a father or a mother or a child is suffering from a health problem, this is a burden. This is a real burden and indirectly affecting the ability of the family to cope with the society. Also, testing the chronic diseases. The health of women issue was very important. We also had awareness campaign regarding the culture of the Egyptian women health while pregnancy, also the newly born babies, to take into consideration all the procedures to maintain their health. The health of the child regarding his hearing, for example, it's also a burden, a social burden on the family. So malnutrition was also one of the aspects. Also, we made another initiative or another campaign to test all these elements. Millions of children were included into this. Also, we tackled the genetic diseases. Relentless efforts were exerted in this field to promote the standard of living of the Egyptian citizen and to enjoy a better way of life. We did not leave the elderly. We had initiatives to test, to have an early detection of tumors, cancer of lungs, of prostate, of cervix, of colon. All these are initiatives on the way. This is going to put Egypt as the biggest country regarding these initiatives. 5,400 centers related or affiliated to the Ministry of Health are scattered all over Egypt. All these health centers are introducing all these services in addition to the family planning control or the family planning methods. We do have two kinds of units or centers, whether the mobile ones or the centers, the mobile clinics, very distinguished mobile clinics with all the procedures and all the methods of testing and diagnosing different diseases. Before ending my speech, through the centers of family planning, we do introduce all the methods and all the awareness to all the women who are visiting us. And here I should mention some numbers. In the past 7 years, the Egyptian invested in the health sector with 300 doubles before 2013. 108 billion Egyptian pounds is now the budget of the health ministry, but with overpopulation, we